Welcome back to Liability Insurance for Performers, hosted by Specialty Insurance Agency, or SIA. Last time, we covered the ins and outs of what a commercial general liability, or CGL policy is, as well as what may or may not be covered. In this video, we'll talk with two of our very own SIA team members who also hold policies with us. We'll talk about the importance of insurance as a performer, safety tips you can take, and what questions you should be asking when booking a gig. My name is Libby Alm. I live in St. Paul, Minnesota with my two cats, and I'm the Communications and Marketing Manager for SIA, as well as a licensed insurance agent. I joined the SIA team in June of 2021. I grew up dancing, but quickly transitioned into the circus arts after seeing a local show in St. Paul at Circus Juventus. I was a circus performer for 13 years, training in various aerial acts, contortion, hand balancing, theater, and dance. In college, I participated in the fall musicals as well as the spring dance concert, both as a dancer and a choreographer. After graduating college in 2017, I was offered a spot with Minnesota Dance Collaborative and performed with them for 3 years. Currently, I sing, play the guitar, ukulele, and a little bit of piano. I also continue to choreograph as an alumnus at my alma mater for their annual dance concert. Being an artist has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember, which makes SIA the perfect job for me.
My name is Lynn Sabin-Lunny, and I joined the SIA team in June of 2021 as an office assistant. I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota with my husband, 2 children, 2 dogs, and 2 cats, and I am an artist. I started my artistic career as a visual artist. I went to Minneapolis College of Art and Design, and I majored in graphic design. Shortly after graduating in 2003, I relocated to Philadelphia to work as a designer for Free People clothing. While living in Philadelphia, I discovered circus arts. It started as an adventure in a new city to hopefully make some new friends. And I have to admit, I wasn't hooked immediately. It was so hard. By the end of my first week's session, however, I was all in. I poured myself into training as well as learning how to coach. As a clothing designer, I was especially excited about the costumes. I've made some of my best friendships throughout the years from both training and teaching. In 2017, my family and I relocated back to Minnesota. I started teaching at the youth circus school, Circus Juventus in St. Paul. I also taught adults at other studios throughout the Twin Cities. In 2021, I partnered with my duo partner to open our own studio, Stomping Ground Studio, in Minneapolis. Today, I continue to perform and train as an aerialist and hand balancer. I have also been working on producing circus art shows. In 2022, I produced my largest show yet about grief, in partnership with author and psychologist Sherry Walling to launch her book, Touching Two Worlds. It was an incredible experience to bring a different conversation to what circus arts can be, and we hope to continue this project in the future. At SIA, I help with additional insured certificates and processing insurance applications. It has been such a great addition to my performing and teaching career.
My name is Ariel Begley, and I am the agency manager at SIA. I've been performing for as long as I can remember, having grown up as a mime in South Dakota with my family mime troupe, Discovery Mime and Movement Theater. After earning my degree in acting at Northern Illinois University, I moved to Chicago, where I worked as an actress and circus performer with a variety of theaters and companies. I also co founded my own physical theater and event entertainment company, Imagine Ensemble, while based in Chicago. I love to travel and have toured all over as a stilt walker, fire performer, clown, and jack of all trades physical performer. In 2017, I packed up my bags and my sweet and spicy kitty, Lucy, to move to the Twin Cities where I continued to pursue my work as an artist and performer. Today, I am the proud new mom of my baby boy, Sully, who is just a little over a year old. As a new mom, I'm performing less than I used to, but I can still be seen out stilt walking or clowning around from time to time. When not performing or working, I like nerding out on all things sci-fi, fantasy, snuggling my kitty, and going on grand epic adventures with my loving partner, Justin. I joined the team here last spring and love being able to support artists around the country through my work with SIA.
One thing I think sets you apart as a performer is having insurance ahead of time. When you're going up against other people and places are looking at different artists, if you show up and have everything you need right off the bat, they can say, "Oh, you're a great performer, you have all your stuff organized, and you're on top of it." It creates a professional look for you and permits an ease of hire for them. As a performer myself, I know we sometimes can get hired in weird last-minute ways. All of a sudden, someone calls you up and says, "How about next week?" You don't want to be scrambling to get your insurance at the last minute in these situations. Luckily, SIA is really quick about certificates, but having a policy ahead of time can make the process easier. If you at least already have your proof of insurance, I think it allows you on those quick hires, with or without a certificate of additional insured, to have a leg up against your competition. This also allows you not to stress about getting insurance on top of getting ready for the gig and getting other details in order. I like to think of insurance as a yearly expense to my business, just as I would my training, costumes, and everything else. It just becomes a part of my yearly budget and a part of my taxes. When I think of it like that, because it is a chunk of money to spend, I can also plan for it during a busy season or a season I know I'm not going to have as many expenses. That can kind of be something to offset the cost in a way. By planning ahead, I know that this month, every year, I have to pay this much money for my insurance. Around the Twin Cities in Minnesota, especially for aerialists, it becomes a big question. Are you insured? If you're not, they will move on to someone who is more readily available or already is insured. I always recommend that as part of the package of being a professional artist is to cover all your bases, and one of those bases is having insurance. They're not necessarily fun to cover, but they become less stressful if you plan ahead. I also feel like having insurance is good karma because it makes me feel like I'm taking things seriously and it makes me feel ready for gigs.
Let's talk about some safety tips for performers. Insurers know freak accidents can happen. However, many instances of damage or injury are preventable, and accident prevention is important. Very few people want to cause harm to others. At the very least, claims against you and the accompanying lawsuits are extremely stressful. It's also important to prevent accidents to maintain the financial solvency of your insurance policy. If a performer's losses prove them to be too risky to insure, they could be dropped from a policy and it wouldn't be easy or maybe even possible to get new coverage. Here are a few claims that we have covered. An audience member breaks her ankle tripping over an aerialist rig at an event. A bystander suffers a back injury when a mime jumps into his arms. A stage sustains damage when a fire juggler drops a flaming prop. A German wheel careens into a spectator when the wind grabs hold of it. And that spectator was a lawyer. Here are some ways those claims could have been prevented. Every performer should set up a clear perimeter that audience members can't pass through. This will help keep them safe from your equipment. If you're a mime or silent character, be aware that not all your gestures are easily decipherable, and maybe that spectator didn't really give you permission to jump into his arms. If you're a fire performer, always have fire safeties on hand and be in control of your flame. And don't even think of performing with fire unless you've done your research and undergone extensive training. When performing outside, be aware of how weather can increase risk. High winds can overturn pop up tents, topple portable rigs, or even rip a German wheel from very strong hands. If the weather is iffy, reschedule outdoor performances.
Additional safety tips to consider include the following. Be aware of your surroundings and don't forget to look up. What's going on above? Always use trusted, competent riggers. This is not only for others' safety, but also your own. Then double and triple check your rigging. Never perform above spectators. Keep your crash zone clear of audience members and other performers. Check all your equipment regularly for wear and tear. Some costumes are unwieldy. Be aware of your surroundings. If you're wearing a large dinosaur costume, that inflatable tail can easily knock over a flat screen TV. If you've donned a beautiful mermaid tail, That flipper can certainly knock over a child in a pool. Never trust others implicitly when it comes to your rigging, especially if you're an aerialist. Take a course and become knowledgeable about point loads, force, appropriate rigging points, hardware, suspension and apparatus considerations, and more. What's that wench rated for? Did you ask? Practice in your costume and the apparatus you're performing on before performance day. Never agree to last-minute changes involving your performance if you're not 100% comfortable. If a venue seems unfit, reconsider your performance. For example, you've booked an aerial chains act for a New Year's Eve gig, but the venue had been blowing bubbles everywhere prior to your performance, and now your chains are slippery. Consider scrapping your prepared routine and only perform basic tricks.
Special considerations for fire performance should always be followed. As mentioned before, always have a dedicated fire safety and make sure you've discussed your props, how you use them, and how to extinguish them, and agreed to a plan in case of unintended fire. Keep fueling stations away from the performance area and have clearly defined spaces for performance, fueling, and spinning off props. Be sure to have a flashlight at the fueling station. Don't use a lighter to see. You should never have an open flame in the fuel station area. Always seal fuel canisters when not in use. Don't forget your funnel. Plastic bags can be useful for spinning off props inside or for bagging your fueled wicks so the fuel doesn't evaporate while waiting to go on. Devatine or wet towels are a must. Use only natural materials for costumes and spray your hair with water prior to performing. Check performance conditions before each show. If the wind, terrain, or other factors present concerns, don't be afraid not to perform. Never perform in unsafe conditions for the sake of the mantra, the show must go on. If possible, have a backup performance plan in case fire is not a safe option. Perhaps you can substitute with glow, fabric, or other flameless props for the event. Remember, there is absolutely no coverage for audience participation with fire. Check out our Fire Performance Safety 101 blog for more tips.
When booking a gig, there are some important details and questions that should be taken into consideration. Our team put together this list for you. Make sure you have an on-site contact for the day of the event to help with any questions or issues that may come up. Oftentimes, this is a different person than the one you coordinated with to set up the event. Be sure to confirm the times for arrival, the performance, as well as the length of the performance. What is the parking situation like? Any special instructions for entering, exiting the event? Be sure to discuss this in context of your planned arrival and exit time so there are no issues. What is the parking situation like? Any special instructions for entering, exiting the event? Be sure to discuss this in context of your planned arrival and exit time so there are no issues. If you need a dressing room space to prepare, be sure to get specifics about what space they will be providing for you. Otherwise, you may end up in a broom closet. Also, check if your dressing room will be a secure place for your personal belongings while you're performing. Even if they say it's secure, it's always best to leave any personal valuables at home. If you have to bring valuable equipment with you to an event, consider getting an inland marine policy to cover your business personal property in case of theft or damage.
Ask if the venue needs a certificate of additional insured when you book the event, so you don't have to scramble to get it day of. For outdoor performances, be sure to always discuss what the backup plan would be in case of rain, bad weather, or unsafe performance conditions. Be sure to discuss what your power or electrical needs might be for the event. For instance, if you need power for playing music, discuss how far away the nearest power source is to your performance area and see if it can handle your needs. If you rely on power for your performance, it's never a bad idea to bring an extra extension cord or two. Consider if your performer needs a spotter or assistant during the event. Will they have limited ability to move, see, or speak? Does their costume or act pose an increased risk of damage or injury to others? If yes, consider providing an assistant to help the performer avoid possible hazards. Note, an assistant can be added to the performer policy for $95. Always have a plan in place for what to do or who to go to in case of a patron issue or emergency. Is there security provided? Where will they be located and how to contact them in case of an emergency? If children will be present for your event, it's always good to clarify who should be responsible for them while you are performing. It's never a good idea for the performer to also be responsible for unattended minors at an event. This concludes our second session about performer liability insurance. We hope this information helps you to see the importance of having insurance, gives you insight into safety tips to follow, and allows you to be the most prepared for your gigs as possible. At Specialty Insurance Agency, we always say, expect the unexpected. Thanks for joining us. Our contact information is on the screen, so if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to our office, and one of our team members is happy to help you.